Super excited about this week's video. Literally, this project has been years in the making. First several years waiting for the technology to hit that sweet spot, and then several years in R&D. So, today we're gonna do a deep dive. I brought my good friend, that's Mark.
Hey.
We'll explain why he's here, but in the meantime, come for a drive. Pretty quiet for a coyote, eh? Floor it. So maybe about 6 years ago, because you guys know I'm a goober and I've been following different tech and stuff, and the EV scene has always interested me. And we've built 3 one-off derelict icon EVs thus far. The 2 first ones are pretty straightforward. So, you know, average normal tech of the time for EV retrofit. They were both derelicts. We did the VW Thing, and then we did the Fiat 600 Gardenero. I think I'm saying that right. Throw an accent, they'll believe you. And then we did that killer Merc. The Merc was a big leap forward because from the experience of the previous 2 and from watching the industry and watching the sea changes in suppliers and available tech, that was the first time we really started to say, okay, let's push the limits. Like, we want proper thermal management. We want it to be transmissionless. Dual motors, sure, more power, let's do it. And that car came out great. Client drives it. We're in constant communication with him. He checks in with us, and he loves it. But there were key things that would take it to the next level that weren't available in the market. So we had a mutual friend. I was down in Austin, Texas, and Mark's shop is in Austin. It's called Moment Motors, and he's always like kind of been pushy in like better fit and finish and integration quality and pushing the supplier network and watching all the alerts like I've been of like the next thing. So on that visit, we started co-griping and getting into like, oh, I want to be cool, and I can't wait till that's not for marine and loud as hell and has helicut gears and the right gear reduction, and like I wish we could do over the air has always been the holy grail, but this stuff just wasn't right. So we knew we wanted to work together. We took our time, and suddenly about 2.5 years ago, the perfect combination of tech came to market. And then we realized it's time.
Go ahead, Dubs. Oh, shit. Jonathan.
So thousands of hours and miles on flights and testing. We're excited to finally be able to talk about this. So this is sort of our debut of the new Founders Edition electric icon Bronco. So pardon the questionably cheesy vinyl wrap. Some people love it, some people hate it, but hey, it's a test mule, and we don't want to do the pixelation graphic the big boys do, so we just kind of did a lizard interpretation of that just for fun. And we've been testing this in the heat, in the cold, on the top of the hill, on the bottom of the hill, on the freeway. We've been driving it inappropriately, rapidly, mostly me. And yeah, we're like ready. So we're gonna do a limited edition of 10 of these Founders Edition. They are all-wheel drive. We'll get deeper into the tech, but basically they are new school or old school or even derelict package available. Roadster, hardtop, half cab, full cab, what do you want? We'll do it all. They're gonna come baseline loaded with many things that are optional on our internal combustion model, so like power windows, power door locks, heated seats, the elevated audio system, the reverse camera, a whole bunch of goodies are added in. And then they are a hoot.
They are a blast.
Yeah, like arguably too fast in the beginning. So like we've been like, okay, let's slow down that throttle input. But I'll let you kind of start to dive because he's the brains of the operation on the EV side.
Actually, I have a team back in Austin that are the brains. But it has been a blast working with Icon on this, and a long time coming. But what Jonathan said is true. This industry has been progressing rapidly over the past few years. And when we started in 2017, it was some of the old technology was basically industrial work. And it's evolved over the last several years, and we've been building cars the whole time. So we've done over 25 different vehicle platforms and applied all of these different technologies over these past few years, and really in constant communication, with Jonathan and Icon about what was available now, what was working right, and what was coming down the line. And we finally got to this point where we could really pull something together and create a package that did a couple things. One, that could completely embrace and build on top of the foundation that Icon has built over the last 2 decades, 2 decades, right? This is it.
So 20th year.
And so take all of that and build on top of that. Use everything that they have done on their chassis, all of the vendors that they've pulled together, and build this incredible platform that we know as the Icon Bronco. But then be able to take OEM level technology from the EV world and essentially build on top of that and build a truly exceptional vehicle that I think captures everything. You get to drive this just like any other Icon Bronco, but yet you have all of this amazing instant torque. You have all of the incredible technology that is involved in all of this at your toe tip and your fingertips. It's right there. And so this has been a long time coming, but it's finally here, right? We finally do have what is necessary to deliver something like this, and we're really proud.
And we kept our tradition of like old school industrial design standards of everything is submodular. So like you've heard me yak about. The powertrain harness has that big old sexy Deutsch-Tech connector that ties it into the principal chassis harness and the in-cab harness. So let's say thinking 10 years, 20 years, there's a Generation 8 Coyote that does this and that better and people are dying for it. Bingo, we engineered it so it's not heading to the graveyard. We're starting with a vehicle that a lot of people thought was already at the end of its usable life cycle, and then reincarnating it from the ashes and then building it in a way that keeps that like 60s concept of built to last and serviceable and morphable. So it was important to us to make sure that was maintained as we went into this EV version. So in essence, the bulk of time and money spent was on the communication amongst all these systems to give more of an OEM tier 1 experience. So we have regenerative braking. We have all-wheel drive. There's no transmission. There's no transfer case. We're 105 kW. We're 400 volts. How do you want to charge it? We've got fast charge. We've got the normal rate of charge.
All of it there. And I mean, that's it, right? This, from a standpoint of driving and interacting with this vehicle, it's a modern vehicle, right? You have all of these features and functionality that you're talking about. One pedal driving, able to select all of the different modes, different drive modes for the type of driving you're going to be doing, from eco mode all the way up to a very kind of scary sport mode. Anything is essentially possible and capable with this. But I think more importantly, there's a system underneath all of this that is keeping tabs on everything, and it's fully integrated, and it is watching battery temperatures and watching voltages and watching everything and turning on the right cooling circuits and the right fans and the right all the different components that go into a modern EV are all kind of masterfully managed, which is really the step above, right? And Jonathan mentioned it. We have over-the-air analytics, so we're able to look at all of the data that's coming off of these vehicles. We could see if there's a problem. We can direct it. Our solution to it. We have it's got industry standard OBD trouble codes. It has everything that you would expect out of a modern vehicle, but yet it's not.
Yeah, and like we didn't want to take like the skateboard approach where it's like a VW underneath and it kind of looks like a Bronco, because you can buy a golf cart, frankly, if that's what you want. So we purposely kept the solid axles. We kept the Brembo brakes. We kept the ARB lockers. We did evolve the suspension beyond Fox Racing to our new partners at Riger. So it's a multi-stage tunable suspension. So that paired with eco mode, normal mode, sport mode, hill descent control, etc., we're still making no off-road compromise, and it's a freeway flyer.
Yeah.
And now we came up with, or you came up with, a super clever kind of like CV meets drive shaft solution that delivers the power to the conventional axles in a polite and quiet manner, despite absurd amounts of torque getting thrown at it.
Yeah, to take advantage of this platform that Icon has developed over these several years, we put a center-mounted drive unit in the middle of this vehicle that keeps the weight of that component completely balanced. It is driving both of the front and rear axles with a limited slip differential in between, and that's splitting the torque between those two. And it's kind of interesting because it actually has better clearance than the
which was actually a surprise. Yeah. We saw it in the model because we did a full 3D assemblage of this, and then did a lot of emulation and packaging tests with that. And then, you know, over the years, the respect and faith and support we've gained from key suppliers, this would, I mean, forget even if the tech had existed. Like when the brand was younger, this would not have been possible. And we had the great luxury this time, and frankly, the first time in my career, to develop this on our own dime and not reach out to clients. So I think that's going to be quite interesting because there's pros and cons to that. I think the pros were maintaining since inception the concept of Icon, which came from the mind of a singular lunatic, for better or worse. So we knew what we wanted it to be, what DNA of vintage we wanted, what modernity we would not accept, what we think would be kick-ass, and we certainly wanted. But then we had the support. So like, you know, the guys that build our wiring harness, it's the only land-going vehicle they do electrical for, because again, back to industry standards, people are fine to like literally go on Amazon and buy like some universal $600 harness. I'm not. I'm kind of a geek for tech and connectors. So like, I want this crosslink wire, I want this sheathing, I want it laser marked, I want these triple seal connectors. So our supplier does mostly rail car, marine, and aerospace. So they kind of do us a favor by working with us. They're here in California. So when Mark's team developed the harness for this system, usually they'll pegboard it and sit there and hemorrhage hours with them. We're like, no, just give us the files. Introduce them to our current supplier. They embraced it. They had faith. So it fully integrates and kind of rides on the back of what the brand was established, you know, what our priorities are clearly defined as. And I said I wasn't going to go there. No, I'm going there, man. I'm going there.
No, I don't.
Okay, the Restomod market. when Jamie and I started doing this 20 years ago, we were the only people doing it. Almost everyone said, "You're out of your mind. You're gonna do what to what for how much?" Like our neighbors that in our original building had a betting pool board, and they were like picking months, like I'll put 20 on March. They won't see March, you know. They're all gone and we're still kicking, baby. We're still firing. But I've noticed as the market has been more proven and is well established, there's been some incredible craftspeople that have followed their dream like we did and said, man, that's nifty. And like, I love alphas, whatever, pick a platform. And they put their heart and soul and intellect and built an alliance, built the right people, and the product's amazing. I feel that in perhaps a larger margin, there are more spreadsheet-based people that go, they get how much for those? Well, that can't be that hard. And trust me, this is a dumb, complicated, expensive enterprise to do. I'm stoked and amazed that we got this far and that we found an audience that not only supported what we originally did, but without fail have pushed us constantly. So every video you see, there's usually some new thing I goobered out on. So people are the people that embrace the brand and the suppliers that enable us have allowed me to stay true to that ethic. But more and more, I'm seeing, especially in the Bronco space, like Builder of the Week comes out and they launch with like a rendering. Now, is what it is. And look, Darwin's great. He's going to trim the herd nature style one way or another. We're here to stay, and that I think y'all are clear on. But you take all of that kind of smoke and mirrors and tap dancing and marketeering, multiply that by 10 when it comes to the aftermarket EV space. Is that fair?
I would guess it's fair. Yes.
I think gentler than I am.
It is a very nascent industry, and I think it is easy to put an electric motor and a battery pack in a car and get it to go down the road. It is very hard to get all those systems to work together and deliver a truly integrated package.
Yeah.
And that's what we've spent the last 8 years doing repeatedly.
So you've been a pioneer
and better and better.
And you've been a settler.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
Like,
exactly.
First mouse usually gets the crap, not the cheese.
And we've lived parallel lives, because what we have done over those years is work with different vendors, different componentry, and put them together and found out the ones that work and figured out the ones that didn't.
Hemorrhaged on the ones that
exactly.
didn't. And they've come and they've gone. And now, at this point of his reputation, they're coming to him.
Yeah.
We wanted all this integration. We wanted over the air. We wanted regenerative braking. Literally, within no one's done OTA except for OEMs. Like super recent that all this stuff even became viable.
That brings us back, to the architecture here. And so we talked about that center-mounted drive unit driving the front and rear differentials, and how that matches the Icon platform really well. The other thing that we have in here is we have a 105 kilowatt hour battery pack, and that is built on an industry standard module that we have made for us. It is based on a module design and architecture that is standardized in the industry, but we've had it specifically configured for this usage, and it gets us more capacity, and it gets us what we need to power a vehicle like this. So those combinations of componentry and the experience that we've had working with so many different suppliers and so many different vendors to land on the proper solution that we know can not only have all of the whiz-bang features and functionality, but can have the staying power and the reliability that we need to deliver something that we knew that Icon would be happy to put their name on, right? So I think, at Moment, that's been our entire purpose this whole time, was to build up this library of intellectual property and
trial and error and vendor
and everything that we knew we could trust to deliver the best possible EV experience. And I really feel like we've achieved that.
Yes, we're there. For the brakes, this is a tier 1 unit. It's made by Bosch.
Yep.
And it is used in many, many, many modern electric and internal combustion vehicles. And it's a wonderful solution, so much so that we've actually fallen in love with it, and we're now testing it in our internal combustion platforms as well. For this round of 10 Bronco Founders Edition EVs, we are simply going to give them a unique sequence number, so EV 001, 2 through 10, and then done. All these connectors are state-of-the-art, highly rated, OEM level. There's fluid running through all systems because we have coolant networks independent for batteries, controller, and motor. And then all of these have double safety connectors and valves that shut off so no fluid escapes, so it keeps it nice and clean. Radiators, we have worked with Griffin for many years, and we partnered with them on this project as well, because unlike a lot of the sort of DIY entry-level EVs that unfortunately are dominating the rest of mod market, we have full thermal management system built in here. So this larger radiator is managing the coolant for the motor and inverter, and the smaller one is for the battery pack. Now, those three systems have completely different thermal ranges and peaks and valleys, so it's important that they have their own not only dedicated radiators, but flow rates and routing and trigger points when they go on and on. We are still running a 12-volt network system for things like brakes and steering and audio and AC and all the normal platform stuff. But we did up our battery game a wee bit by going with this anti-gravity, which is a lithium-ion battery. They're super lightweight, which doesn't really matter in this case because this thing's so heavy. All our Broncos are. But they're just super stable. And the cool thing is, if you get under the threshold, you have a low battery, you left a door open or a radio bumping, whatever, there's a very simple one button reset, and it holds enough power in a reserve, unlocks that, party on, you're back on the road. Where you're used to seeing the Ford factory ECU for the Gen 3 Coyote, the computer controller for the engine that sits here, this time that is our black box for the EVs. So we don't really, you're not going to interface it with it at all, but that's the brains of the operation. And like a lot of these sort of resto-mod EVs, you'll see there's like whatever, like a generic push button momentary switch with a P drawn on it, you know, park and reverse and neutral.
Yep.
And the parking brake could be everything from a chock of wood to a solenoid that takes forever, or a stock inline drum on the drive shaft.
Yep.
Train wreck. So we worked hard to keep the essence of a vintage Bronco. Yes. So for example, the dash. Looks like a new school, or it looks like an old school. Pretty much it. Till you look at the gauge in more detail. Same traditional format, but now it's giving you at a glance what you need to know, basic EV stuff. So, you know, your range, your temperature, what's going in, what's coming out.
Yep.
And that's it. Then you can go down the rabbit hole through layers and layers of data screens that are based on energy or vehicle, so well beyond the normal Pioneer stuff, and you can get super granular and see what has your consumption been if you've been having a little bonus fun like me for the last 15 miles, or to give you 30 miles. You can look at graphs that show you your performance and your power output. You can control the cruise control. You can change between the drive modes. For some unknown reason to either of us, you want to turn off regen braking because, I'm sorry, I'm man enough to admit, one pedal driving is fun.
It's pretty awesome.
Especially in town. So you can turn that off, but it's hidden in the console. So keeping it retro. And instead of some stupid dorky button on the dash, man, we kept the old school Prindle.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm not,
No, I love it.
I'm
You
going to
get
own
in
it.
this truck and you
Part of the
just-
fun. You still, it's part of that retro experience.
Yep. You turn the key, slam it down and drive, and off you go. Stare at those gauges, look out that window. For anybody who would consider it, it is exactly like driving a Bronco.
Yeah.
And it is, I think, the best of both worlds. You get all of that experience, and you have all of that instant torque under your foot, ready to go. And yeah, it's been kind of fun following you around this past week here. I get to drive the ICE Bronco every once in a while, and every once in a while he'll goose it, and I can't even. It's not even close. I can't
Don't even
we
try.
cannot even try.
Don't even
I
try.
just sit
Not
back.
going to happen.
Winding that Coyote out just doesn't do it.
In sport mode, we are 4.9 seconds 0 to 60. It's a handful. You better have both hands on the wheel and be paying attention.
Yeah.
But it is a hoot.
It is. It is. I think people are going to love it. We're making about 440 foot-pounds of torque and around 500 peak horsepower. It's plenty.
I literally demanded we be doing it. Like, that's plenty. We're
It's
good.
plenty. It is a very, very impressive piece of technology in there. On the battery side, we're using a standard module that is being used in a lot of different applications, typically in Volkswagen and some other manufacturers. Yet we have a manufacturer that is making us a very specific module for this purpose that increases our capacity to 105 kilowatt hours. So we have a pretty hefty pack in here. And that's great because these Broncos are hungry, but it really does give us the all of the capabilities that we really wanted out of this, and it is I think it is really truly cutting edge technology. And watching over all of this, we have a completely integrated vehicle control system. And that's something I want to point out. Jonathan has mentioned multiple times the various vendors and partners that have come together and helped them build what is the Icon Bronco platform. We at Moment have worked with many vendors and many suppliers over the years, and we're really thrilled to be working with Ampere EV on the vehicle control system. They have not only built a platform that we are using in almost every vehicle now, but they've worked really closely with us to help us build this particular vehicle and add the features and functionality we needed to make it truly stand above the rest. Really happy with them. Certainly we can talk specs like 440 foot-pounds of torque and 500 horsepower and 105 kilowatt hours and all of the geeky details. But the reality is, the thing that makes this most impressive is the integrated system that manages it all.
It's not the instruments,
No.
it's the conductor.
It's the conductor, and it really is. When you think about this, what level of functionality and capability we all expect from an EV these days, it all comes down to the software, right? And so the software that is managing all of this is taking into account everything. It's looking at all the temperatures and the voltages of the batteries. It's taking the input from the driver. It's taking it's turning on pumps. It's turning on fans. It's doing everything. It is keeping the batteries in the proper thermal range. So heating them when they're too cold, cooling them when they're too hot. Making sure that the inverter and the motor are running at the absolute optimal temperatures. It is constantly looking at all of these things and then allowing the driver to have control over some of these things, being able to choose your level of regenerative braking, being able to turn on and off your idle creep, and be able to choose your driving modes from eco to normal to sport, all of the things that you would expect and get into a modern EV and look for in your console. It's all there and available to you, yet it's in a 60s Bronco, right?
Yeah, like the electro-hydraulic brake master in this build is seen under the hood of the world's best OEM. Kept the Brembos, because obviously we love our Brembos, but we went away from Hydro Boost because, well, we don't have a power steering pump, because we also, well, we kind of do. Yes. We also did electric hydraulic power steering, still 12 volt, mostly as a safety thing, same with the electric brake assist. But, you know, those are tier one integrated systems that like kept the feel and vibe, but actually the AC works way better. I mean, this compressor's a monster. But you know, the thermal demands of a battery pack versus a controller versus the motor, they have absolutely nothing to do with each other. I think it's like the #1 skimmed, glossed over, or simply not addressed issues in the retrofit world, that people do nothing with that. And I mean, that can get downright unsafe. Braking, steering, suspension, cooling, climate control, suspension. Did I cover that already?
Yeah, but I think
the only thing we didn't have to redesign was the exhaust system.
Yeah, right.
Basically, like to pull this off correctly, like a fully integrated system, you have to rethink almost everything. Now, if you combine that with a brand that is well established, that has a certain character and feel and DNA built into a vehicle, that takes that responsibility up a notch, right? So we had to rethink our brake system, our suspension, our steering, our weight bias, our fuel reserve, batteries, weight mapping, cooling, air conditioning, gauges,
everything,
refueling, charging, and on and on and on. And that's why it's taken so long. But at the end, that to me is the core elegance of what we've done. Are we the first company to electrify a Bronco? No.
I think we're going to be the best.
Let's just leave it at that. But they're out there. Talk to the owners, or see if they actually ever even made it out there. So this time we weren't the first, and we're cool with that. But we feel we've maintained the ethos that we're the gosh darn best.
We're using CCS so that you have the ability to charge at level 1 or level 2 in your home and garage and charge it overnight, but you also have access to the vast and growing DC fast charging network that is out there for CCS compatible vehicles. and that should get you a full charge in under an hour, and works great for extending your range or for that quick top off when you're in a different part of town.
So in our extensive testing, we've achieved 200-mile range. I imagine, although I personally lack the capability to hypermile, I'm a bit of a lead foot by reputation, but yeah, 200 miles is viable range. Maybe you can squeeze more out of it. I think if you're off-road and you're beating on it, you're going to get less. This is the reality.
And this does tend to like getting beaten on.
It does, yeah. We had fun on the trail today.
It is.
But the other thing too is like, okay, we could have put more batteries in, but it would have come into the interior space, you know?
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, then the rear seats like on a deck, and like, we don't want to go that far. I think the reality is the way people are going to use this, 200 miles is fine, especially with that under 1 hour full charge. Like, party on, you're good to go. And a lot of the capital that we spent on it is the networking and the communications between all these systems, which gives us a really unique freedom to adapt and to evolve. You know, we've seen at least 2 massive revolutions in the last decade in the aftermarket EV space. I think that industry is still kind of in conflict with itself, because at one level, people want more refinement, have higher expectations of range, performance, safety, regen, integration. But that's one side of the interest. The other side of the interest is, oh, if we could only develop a palletized kit that we could ship to somebody with an instructional video at an acceptable entry-level price that's dumbed down, that it can be a father-son weekend project. At the end of the day, those need to become 2 completely different supply chains and industries to deliver, because you cannot do both. And for us, you know, working together and paving the road for more like OEM level serviceability is another big issue with EVs. I mean, even at the dealer level in some cases. So for us, the traditional Icon's sort of sub-modularity combined with the OTA and us being able to see usage types, drive cycles, how much torque are they displacing? Are they driving as crazy as me, or are they more chill? Combined with the fact that we developed it without telling anyone, just from our weird maybe perspectives of what we needed in it. Now I'm like, it's exciting, because as we're going public and our clients and media and everyone gets to understand it and drive it and start ordering them, hopefully, then I'm curious to see what the biggest feedback is, as far as like, oh, I love that, but please do that with the Thriftmaster. Or can you do that with the FJ? Or could I have more car-like performance? Because I'm not even going to 4x. Can you give it more of a retro stance and more street manners and handling and more range? Like, we're so excited to like see what the next chapter will be.
Absolutely. And I think that's another one of the major design directives we had, which is we needed to develop a system that could be applied to all of these different platforms that Icon has, right? And we wanted to have something that we could reconfigure and change to adapt to whatever these market demands are and whatever our heart desires, right? And so that is part of what this is. And inside here, you're not seeing a Bronco-shaped solution. You're seeing a system and an architecture that is built around the Icon platform, and we're able to adapt it to wherever that goes. And I think that's going to be a blast. It's really going to be incredibly fun to get that feedback, see where this goes, to get the data, and be able to continually refine and continually build upon what we've done so far.
Yeah. So already live on the website is the configurator for the standard Icon Broncos, the internal combustions. And we simply have added a toggle at the very beginning of the configurator. Do you want ICE or do you want EV? And then you can design one as you see fit. Takes you all the way through. All the tech and specs are up there. You'll be seeing a lot of media driving the hell out of it and testing it and trying to find problems. And we've been doing that all week.
Yes, we have been.
Not an issue yet. No. It's been a blast. And I think this warranted a more in-depth video. So I hope you guys enjoyed the more sort of backstory and deep dive. And as always, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your support, we couldn't do it without you. Even if you ain't buying one, you're spreading the word about what makes an icon, and can't thank you enough. So be well. We'll see you next week.
Absolutely.